In the West, mental health means for us being in control. And there's no ambiguity about that. We're very clear about it. Everywhere we look, it's like getting back in control, managing this and managing that, etc., etc. It's all about control. Mental health equals a state of being in the driving seat and being firmly in charge of what happens. Only that isn't mental health at all. That is psychological monstrosity. To be totally in control is to be in a loop where we're chasing our own tail the whole time, never experiencing anything that isn't part of our habitual picture of the world. Control means reinstating what we understand to be right, what we understand to be advantageous, what we are comfortable with. Any form of control must be a repeat of the past. If I want to go somewhere new, somewhere that isn't the past, if I want to get out of my loop, I have to stop controlling. And that's where our whole problem is, because we can't stop controlling. Not only do we see controlling as being mentally healthy, and not only do we put all our efforts into reinstating control when we lose it in therapy, we also totally fail to see what control is. What control is, it's in psychological terms, it's a kind of a thing that gives us a momentary sense of relief or comfort or reassurance. The price of insulating us or closing ourselves off from reality. So, in psychological terms, reality can't be excluded without excluding our mental health, because our mental health and our perception of reality cannot be separated. There's no way to be mentally healthy and yet imagine that a totally spurious picture of a model of things is real. According to everyone else who's partaking in that model, it will be real, it will be healthy, we will promote it. And anyone that's in our collusion will see it as being healthy to stay in control, so that we stay on the page with everyone else in it and everyone is staying on the same page. So there is that collusion element in it. So our type of mental health, what we call mental health, is a kind of collusion whereby we try and enforce some kind of normality. Only whilst normality is a great thing in terms of our physical bodies, like it feels really good to have the normal temperature, the normal blood pressure, the normal sodium ion concentration, etc., etc. If we do the same thing for the psychological side of things, and we live in a world where everything appears normal and where we always act and think normally, statistically in keeping with everyone else, that isn't just unhealthy, it's the equivalent of a medical catastrophe. That is an absolute disaster. It's a disaster of the most extreme and unforgiving nature. And the reason it's a disaster, because when everything is being controlled so that it is what the system wants it to be, i.e. normal, i.e. recognizable in terms of the standards of that society, then what that means is we are a reflection of, or a projection of, that system, society. By making us into the form that it chooses for us, it has made us into it. And by making of us what it wants to make of us, like a potter playing with wet clay. Society has made us not be who we are. That's the bottom line. The bottom line is that somehow this type of organization, this type of world that we've arranged for ourselves, is a world in which the bottom line, the fundamental thing is that we can't be who we really are. As Alan Watts says, this is the great taboo. Now, just as long as we observe the great taboo and we don't go against it, and we are content to be the equilibrium self, the self that is the resultant of equations and formulae, essentially. As long as we are content to be that self, we won't be able to understand anything of what we're saying here. It's not going to be possible to take on board the argument. The argument being that the only way we ever find ourselves, connect with ourselves, have a glimpse of ourselves, is when we break from the old, when we break from the routines, the history of who we are, and the regular generic type stuff that we always do. If we don't break from that completely, we don't exist. We think we exist, but all that exists is this ongoing, tumbling mass of habits, which is rolling over and over again, recycling reality, and we're sitting in it. And who we are isn't us. Who we are is another habit. It's part of that habit, collection of habits. We're the habit of ourselves. Or we could say we're the repeat of ourselves or the copy of ourselves. Only what's being copied isn't really who we are, because who we are can't be copied. If it could be copied, it would be a very trivial affair indeed. Which we are isn't a very trivial affair. It goes beyond the bounds of everything we can define or explain or understand. So it overflows the bounds of all of our categories. And all we care about is categories. We have a category for everything. And if it isn't in a category, we totally ignore it. But supposing there's something bigger than a category, I mean, the whole thing about creating a world out of categories so that it's nothing else but one whole load of categories placed seamlessly next to each other, so there's no space between them. So then you've got the categorical world. You've got a world that's nothing but categories, and there's nothing outside it, because if it's not in a category, we can't register it. But that world of categories has nothing to do with the world that's really out there. It's merely a bureaucratic convenience for the system. In question, whatever system is there, it evolves these categories um, for its own benefit. Categories are its way of doing things, and its way of doing things is all about validating itself, and it has nothing at all to do with establishing a connection or reaching out into the real world. So what I'm essentially trying to say here, if I can rein myself in a little bit from my rambling, is that when we try in any way to conform to what we think we should be, or what someone else thinks we should be, or what society thinks we should be, we depart from our own mental health. Therefore, all of the methods that we are given, which have some kind of they have some sort of goal in mind. All of the methods we've been given make us be generic and make us be what someone else wants to be. There's only one way to be who we already are, and that isn't a way at all. It's not a method. There's no method to be the way we already are, because methods are positive, which is to say they're our attempt to change things, control things, project our own order on things. The only way to be who we really are is the negative way, which means to completely refrain from controlling methods, energy, and all of that kind of stuff.